Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning Wildcat Radio Coaches Show.
Two receivers to the right, two to the left. Straight give right up the middle, and Cam Smith has tons of He's gone to the house. 50 to the 45 to 40. Cam Smith down the sideline, one man to beat, and he's going to do 80 yards. It's just less than 30 seconds for the Wildcats to get back on the board as Cam Smith goes 80 yards, and the Wildcats regain the lead. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning Wildcat Radio Coaches Show, brought to you every week by Oscar Gray and the fine folks down at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Mike Cruz, joined as always by the head coach of the Baker County Wildcats as we talk Baker County Wildcat football 2022, week in, week out. And this week's a special week because us talking on the radio this week, Coach, means that we are moving on in the playoffs.
It does, and that's the goal when you start the season is to get into the playoffs, and then everybody kind of sets their goal too to be practicing during Thanksgiving. So we got to get through this week, and obviously you don't want to look ahead too far, but that was our goal from the beginning is practice during Thanksgiving, win state championship, that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of talk around here.
I told the folks on the broadcast Friday night that if we had a radio show this week, that was a good thing. That meant we were winning. So once we get past that final game of the regular season, we'll only have this coaches show if we win and we keep playing week to week. So us being here tonight talking Wildcat football is a good thing. That means the Wildcats won the rematch with Yulee, something we talked about last week, Coach. It's never something you want to do, especially in a game that we went and had a 31-30 come from behind victory against Yulee the first time we played. A team that was very familiar with us from that first game, a team that you've had conversations with their coaching staff about. You guys are friends, so a game that you kind of looked at and said, man, this is going to be a tough one for us to win. Somehow we were able to do it. The game was different, though. We didn't turn the football over. We didn't lay it on the ground. The first game, if you recall, we were heading into the locker room, would have been very similar, 14-0 at halftime. In the last 4 minutes of the first half, we turned the ball over a couple of times. They were able to score. Came out in the second half, it was a different ball game. They smelled blood, and so this time we didn't give them that chance, Coach, and able to put them away. I know that when we talk about the game tonight, there's things that we want to go back and correct. But overall, 16-6, the Wildcats a big win, and the name of the game you get to next week.
That's it. What was the ESPN about North Carolina State? Survive in advance.
Survive in advance.
And that's what we did. And I tell the kids, I don't care if we win by 100 or 1. A win's a win, and we get to play. We're down to 16 teams, and we're one of them. So we get a chance to practice this week and head to Baldwin and see if we get a little revenge on that, on that team.
Yeah, so 16 teams started out in our region for the playoffs, 32 teams overall within the class, right? 2S or
yes.
8 teams within our region. So 32 teams last week. Now we're down to 16 teams in the overall state playoff, but within our region down to 4. So Bradford High will play Gainesville Eastside this Friday.
It's kind of surprised. I thought North Marion supposedly had their guys back and was going to win, but Eastside supposedly playing really well right now.
And that was that 4 or 5 matchup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that, one team goes one way, one team goes the other way. North Marion's always tough, but Bradford's going to take on Gainesville Eastside. Bradford had no problem with Crescent City in their first round game. And then on the air Friday night, we talked about it. Baldwin played on Saturday night against Palatka. And I think Baldwin kind of pulled away and won pretty easily.
Yeah, it was 12-14 going into the fourth quarter.
Oh, wow.
Pretty close game. We left at the end of the third quarter, and then I guess they scored twice after we left. But it was a close game for a while.
So that sets up a rematch, one that we've kind of talked about this year. We talked about it last week. You didn't want to play Yulee the second time. Well, I'm sure Baldwin's kind of saying the same thing. We don't want to play Baker County the second time because a lot of the situation is different heading into this game than it was the last time. You talked about it. We had just come from the Brunswick-Richmond Hill game when we played Baldwin the first time. The guys were beat up a little bit from the games against Oakleaf and Richmond Hill that we had played, I think, and you saw that they needed a little bit of rest following that. Didn't have time for that. Had to go play Baldwin, and Baldwin kind of took it to us that night. Kind of just ran it right down our throats. It is what it is. But now they have us coming back for the second time. A lot of things have changed since that time. We'll talk about that game and what you might have seen in your scouting trip over there in just a little bit. But shoe on the other foot now a little bit from the Baldwin perspective. They're going to be thinking the same thing. Man, tough to beat Baker County, and here we are. Great opportunity to go win this thing, right?
Yeah, and I'm excited to have another chance to go over there and play them. But I've said it to a couple people. The playoff setup now is nice because travel. We're not going to Pensacola and spending all the money and all that kind of stuff. But you like playing different people. To have to go over and play Baldwin again, it's going to be tough. And then if we happen to get by that one, to have to play Bradford again, and we're playing all the same people over and over. But at least we're playing, and we're looking forward to the challenge this week. Our guys had a good mindset today at practice.
Yeah, I was going to ask about practice in just a moment, but yeah, now that you said that, 32 teams started out last week in our overall bracket, down to 16 this week. Just 4 within our region. So those 4 are Bradford, Gainesville, Eastside, Baker County, and Baldwin. So to be one of those 4, if the Wildcats were to win this week, go play Bradford next week, then the winner of that would be the regional champion. So that's the goal. I know you want to go further than that, but we'll talk about Bradford later on down the road. Tonight, obviously, we'll focus on Baldwin. But let's take a few minutes and recap that Yulee game from Friday night because, Coach, us talking before the game, you kind of had me worried a little bit. I was like, man, can we beat Yulee twice? And so
they were a good team, and I did say that a few different places. It's not the first round game you were wanting to play. A 3-6 game, you normally would feel a little better about that, but that was we knew they were a good team, and they did, they could have scored at any moment. That was the big worry with them.
Well, and that's the kind of thing that as I'm watching the first half unfold, I kind of kept waiting for an explosive play to come, and they just never had any. But not in the first half, anyway. But Yulee did win the toss before the game. They deferred to the second half. We got the football first. Didn't take us long, did it, Coach? I think it was
three plays.
3 plays. Blake,
Cam, Silas, Blake.
Cam, Silas, Blake. That's right. We hit Silas on the jet sweep, and then Blake comes back with his own read play, gets to the sideline this time instead of going straight down the middle of the field, which he got caught that time. This time he's going down the sideline, 41 yards. Nobody touched him.
And, I know. That's what everybody kidding me on the sideline said he must have got that from his mother, but I know they just holding out on me for my back in the younger days.
Well, I'm not even gonna enter that conversation, Coach. But I was excited to see that. I know Blake was excited. He gets on the board, 7-0 Cats on top. Right out of the gates, the defense plays solid. The biggest thing that I probably took away, and you and I have already, I don't want to spoil anything, but you and I have kind of already talked about this tonight before the show. At the end of the day, we win the game 16-6. We had some really good explosive plays during that first half. Late in the game, we tried to do some things to put things away and make sure that they really couldn't come back from us. And, it just seems like, we take 2 steps forward, we take 1 step back. The name of the game is to win the game, survive and advance, move on to the next round. But let's talk about some of those things that you want to clean up this weekend practice, right? I mean, penalties obviously reared their head again.
You go back and look, okay, so we scored in 3 plays, 3 and out, they're punting, we hit the punter. They get the ball back.
I forgot about that.
And we could have got the ball back. Could have gone down maybe, who knows, we had everything rolling right, gone down, score 14-0 quick. We get a chance, Cam scores, we get a holding call. So there's 7 points. Later in the game, Cam makes a good run, we put a good drive together, get down to the 1-yard line, holding, pulls us back, between that and some special teams goofs offensively, we figure we left at least 20 points on the board. Easy 20 points, not even thinking about it. It is because of penalties. And, I know the refs could call holding every play, but there were definitely, go back and look at film, there were some that were, I don't know if you make those calls in the playoffs, but they did. and they hurt us. But we went back and looked. The newspaper had us for like 180 yards of penalties, and we talked about that with the kids today.
That's a lot.
You can't. You're not going to win the close games later in the playoffs with that, and we preach it every day to them. And it's hard. I don't even know what to say. You know, we say every day we talk to them about penalties and doing the right things, and we still haven't got rid of that bug yet.
Yeah, and people listening in may be thinking 180, wow, that much? And, you know, the answer to that is yeah. I mean, there was another game a few weeks ago. I can't remember if it was the Fernandina game or the home game before that. I was tallying up penalties. There were 21 penalties in that game. I mean, it's just, and even at 5 yards a pop, it doesn't take long for them to add up, right?
No.
I mean, and a lot of ours are the 10 and 15-yard variety, and those are the ones, like you said, the effort plays, guys trying to make a play. You can live with that somewhat,
Yeah.
even though you don't want to see it continuously. No. But guys that are just, you know, making a bad decision and costing the team, you know, those things hurt. You mentioned it. You know, there's lots of that. Then, you know, we also had a chance to kick a couple of field goals the other night. We couldn't get the snap down, right? So in either case, I think both snaps were high. The first one, Dean went up, got it down, trying to salvage it. It got blocked from the guy coming on the end.
I think it was number 10 and 0. Those two brothers, they're good players, but yeah, they
10.
came off. They played with a lot of effort. And when you play against guys that give effort like that, everything has to be crisp, and we were just not crisp with that.
Just a little off, yeah. Well, I was saying, you know, when you have a high snap on a field goal attempt or an extra point, that split second is all it takes for the other guy to have an advantage, and that's what they got there. The second one, Davion couldn't even grab. So, you know, those I know from an execution standpoint, you have to make sure that as you head further into the rounds of the playoffs, that the execution piece has to be there. Do you think the guys understand that from practice today?
They do. They've been told. It's just, you know, it's hard. Everybody thinks it's so easy, but when you deal with teenagers, 15 to 18, there's a lot of different things that play into their life, day in and day out, that we have to deal with them. But we try to explain it to them, and I you know, we've been very, very good, and we've been very, very bad. You know, if we could ever put it together as a whole game, I think everybody'd be really impressed, because we've seen signs on both sides of the ball. You know, defense played really well this past week. They put that together, and offensively we take care of some things. You know, we have a chance to be good, and I've told these guys that you look at our bracket all the way through, and we've said this before, there's not that Miami Central team out there. They're all teams that we can play with and we can beat, but we've got to put it all together and quit penalties and you know, stupid stuff like that, and execute the way we're supposed to. And like you said, you know, not always be negative, but we didn't have turnovers. We executed fairly well offensively. We would just, like you said, two steps forward, one step back.
And and that's part of it. That's part of it. You know, I've come to see that, and sometimes I think that the longer that the season goes on, you just start to recognize some of the things aren't going to change, right? They're going to be what they are. You got to live with them. Hopefully, you can do enough to overcome some of the mistakes we make on the penalty front, even though you're trying to eliminate those as you go. You know, but sometimes you just are who you are, right?
No, you get, you know, you could call holding every play. It just seems that we get it worse than others. And I would say, you know, our left tackle on Cam's touchdown, he held the guy pretty bad. I mean, it was right in front of me. I mean, he couldn't even argue that. There was other ones, though, that you're like, come on, no. You're calling the backside tackle on a play that's going to the left. You're calling the right tackle, you know, for something that questionable hold or not. But they seem to like doing it to us.
No, I get it, and it always seems like it comes at a pivotal moment, right? I mean, like, it can't be on those 3 plays we had back-to-back where nothing really happened. It's got to be on that 60-yard touchdown run or something. Yeah, I get it. It was, you know, overall, I thought the crowd, the environment was good Friday night. You know, I felt like, you know, overall, the Wildcat fans kind of showed up. There were some times when I was asking Jackie, you know, are we sitting on our hands here? But either way, you know, hunting season starts, you get into the playoffs, and I know a lot of people probably out of town, whatever. I mean, that's the way it is. Those are the things you compete with in the playoffs. But as you go further in the playoffs, I expect we'll probably have a big crowd that heads to Baldwin. What do you think?
I would think so, and I would say this, after being over there Saturday night scouting, if you want a seat, you better get there early because we got the cheerleading band, everybody going. And it's
They don't have
their
much
visitors,
room.
their visitor stands are not that big. So I expect a big crowd over there.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. Their visiting stands aren't that big. I mean, they don't have much room at all. Have you thought about calling them and asking them if they want to play here, just for added room?
Yeah, just see if they would do that. I'll try that. We'll see what happens.
No, I'm just throwing in some sarcasm there, but that would be a good idea. Hey, Coach, we're expecting a lot more fans than I think you can hold. You want to play here? We'll give you half the gate, whatever. Yeah.
Well, FHSA gets like half the gate.
Yeah, right. Playoff thing. Yeah, so should be exciting. Yeah, I was talking to Jackie about that. You know, I think this is a 6:30 kickoff on Friday night, so it's not your standard 7 or 7:30 kickoff. It's funny because I know Bradford, they kick off their games at 7:30, so you get that. We'll have an hour lag between when they're playing versus where we're playing. But 6:30 Friday night for Wildcat fans. I think GoFan is where the Wildcat fans would need to go for tickets.
GoFan, and
yeah,
I don't have a link. People can just go on GoFan, search Baker County or Baldwin. I'm sure they can find it.
Yeah, so if you are planning on going to the game Friday night, gofan.com, that's where you need to go and access your tickets. Just look for Baldwin High School. You know, that's the way that you'll be able to get tickets. I don't think they'll be selling any at the gate, so you'll want to get those ahead of time. And please note that it's a 6:30 p.m. kickoff because it's Duval County. So 6:30 p.m. kickoff for Friday night. And then from there, we'll see where things go. I don't guess, from a regional standpoint, I don't guess we have a chance to host any longer, right? So the only way we could host, I guess, would be if Gainesville Eastside were to upset Bradford and we win. And then we get a third round game against Eastside. That might
No,
be
I think Eastside was a district winner, so I think we'd still go there.
So we wouldn't have a chance to host in the regional now.
Yeah.
I guess in the
Final Four, you still could have a chance. They'll reseed us, and we'll see where we fall. But I don't think so. I don't think we'll host again at home. But stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. Coach, did you get a chance to do any relaxing this weekend? I know Baldwin ended up playing on Saturday night. I think you already mentioned that you went and scouted them. So did you get a chance to kick your feet up at all? The Gators had one of their more perfect games that they've played all year long. And finally, in an SEC game, where they could move to 6 wins on the year, they finally looked like a football team that wasn't going to end this year the way they did last year and quit on everybody. They looked like a team that was concentrating on finishing this season off strong, which I was impressed by.
To answer your first question, no. I had a house full
Again.
So they kept us busy. It's always a plus and a minus. Your house keeps you busy, but then you got family that come and support you, so you always got that. So we enjoy when they all come up there. College football wise, we didn't watch a whole bunch this weekend. We were kind of just out busy, kind of running around doing our.
So your family doesn't like college football?
Not as much as my direct house.
I got you.
But my brother-in-law's an Alabama fan too. I don't want to watch that. Him and Hank should hook up.
Him and Hank.
Yeah.
They can watch the Braves and Alabama and Steelers, whatever.
But yesterday was kind of relaxing. We didn't do too much yesterday, so we got to relax a little bit. And, what game did I watch a little bit yesterday? I watched some last night. I watched a little bit of the Packers.
Oh, the Packers game was a really good game.
Yeah.
Cowboys,
Packers,
which
is odd because I don't like neither one of those teams. But I started watching it towards the end of it. It was
turned into a great game. Yeah. Cowboys were up 14, and the Packers stormed back and won in overtime.
Yeah,
what a game! Yeah, that one was impressive. I started the day off yesterday pretty early because the Bucks and Seahawks were on at 9:30 a.m. yesterday morning in Germany of all places. They play in London, they play in Germany now, and those folks love it. I was watching that yesterday, and I pointed out to my son, I was like, if you lived in Germany or if you lived in London or wherever, you can tell these folks love American football because you just look in the stands. there were so many jerseys for so many different teams. You know, you got the Seahawks and the Bucks were the two teams there, but you see jerseys for every team in the NFL, which means these folks just wanted to see an NFL game. That's all they cared about. They wanted to wear their jersey from the team that they support. And so I woke up watching that game yesterday, and Tom Brady and the Bucks finally looked like a team that was going to try to make a run toward the playoffs. They've struggled all year, but yesterday they looked solid. And then the Jaguars, you know, they were on the road facing the Chiefs, so they had no chance from the beginning. But
my family grew up Dolphins fans, so they're happy.
yeah, the Dolphins have played really well this year, and you know, they seem to be building for a good run for a few years.
That's another. I did watch some late Saturday. I watched Oregon, Washington out of all games.
Oregon, Washington. Wasn't that was a close one too, right?
Yeah.
Washington won.
Oregon went for it. Tie game, I think. And
Yeah.
Oregon went for it on their own 40 with like a minute and a half left and didn't get it. Gave Washington the ball right there.
Right.
Time. I did watch. That was a good game.
Yeah, that was a good game because I remember on Saturday night there were 3 or 4 games, and I kind of flipped back and forth. I think TCU and Texas was a decent game, and then Florida State was playing. But once they got a big lead on Syracuse, you know, you didn't have to watch that. But TCU and Texas was a fun game to watch. TCU for the simple fact that they're now in that top 4 in the college football playoff. You know, it's interesting because you want to see what would happen with those teams because last week 3 of the top 4 in the college football playoff lost.
Yeah.
So I was interested this week to see who would hold serve in that top 4. Georgia had no problem.
Yeah.
Playing Mississippi State. Mike Leach wasn't happy about it, but he's not usually ever very happy. But hey, it was a good weekend overall. I'm glad you got to spend some time with family. Coach, just in terms of, you know, video or highlights or anything that you've been able to see, what do you expect that Baldwin's going to do when we get on the field with them Friday night? The first time we played, Coach, they just ran the crazy Wildcat formation all night long.
When we went to watch them at Palaca, they did some of both. They get in a 4-wide set. Number 11's good quarterback. They threw the ball to number 6, either on a slant or go, fast receiver, and then they got into what they ran against us. So, you know, we'll be ready for both formations. And, you know, defense is playing. We're a total different defense than what we were. What was that, week 4?
Yeah, early.
Yeah, you know, guys are playing good, and different guy seems to step up. I mean, I didn't know Chestnut was that fast.
Oh, man.
And he had that pick 6.
Yes, he did.
You know, we've had Jeremiah Mitchell come in who got the safety. Just a couple of those guys from the game that you know, little highlights for them. But you know, they're defensively they're gonna do the same thing I think that they did to us last time. They kind of stay in their base defense, but offensively it just depends on what their mindset's going to be. But we're going to be a little better prepared for it this time.
Well, I'm excited to see it, Coach, and I just wanted to, you know, before I had already mentioned that tonight's show, and I want to thank again Oscar Gray and the folks down there at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning for making this Monday night show one that we can rely on each and every week. We had already kind of talked about tonight's show. We were not going to sit around and dawdle and talk for a long time about everything like we did last week. I think I rambled a little bit at the end of last week's. There'll be time for that when it comes down to the end of the year, you know. I don't expect that this week's going to be the end of our season, so I'm going to fully expect that we're going to be here next week. So we're not going to have a super long show tonight, but I did want to stop and just tip our caps to some of the guys who had some good performances from Friday night. And I'm glad you mentioned Chestnut again because Chestnut had a nice game. Thought Josh Holmes, my apologies. Orlando Holland continued to have a big season. Cale Cruz again. I thought Cale Cruz made some plays on this from a secondary perspective, knocking some pass plays away that we saw him in on. Wanted to make sure that we pointed that stuff out. Cam obviously had a good game again. Kanias couldn't go Friday night, so Josh Holmes was helping out in the backfield. That was the piece that I was mentioning about Josh. Phillip Jackson, his name came up a couple of times on the radio with a couple of plays that he made.
We were able to put Davion in the backfield a little bit too. He showed some flashes back there.
He did, and
He had a good catch on the sideline over there, 1-on-1, 50-50 type ball.
He did, and I was going to mention there was another play late in the game. He almost had the interception. I think it just wasn't timed up exactly right, but he was on the spot for some plays on the corner side too. But overall, some good performances by a lot of guys. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I know Tucker Thrift was in on some tackles up in the front piece there.
The defense as a whole played well,
really well.
Like I said, it's we're proud
Cam
of those
had a
guys
good game. Blake Mays had a good game. We didn't get to see if he was going to make the field goals or not because we couldn't get the snap down, but we'll work on that during the week, right?
We worked on that today.
So comes down to it against Baldwin, and you're driving into the breeze, slight breeze. Let's say it's just a notch above maybe a 5 mile an hour breeze into your face, and you're driving into that Friday night, and you're sitting around the 31-yard line, so it'd be about a 48-yard field goal. You need that to win the game. You gonna kick it? It's a 4th and 2, by the way.
Ooh, 4th and 2?
Yeah.
Less than a minute?
Yeah, right at it. But you're out of time.
I don't think 48.
No.
42 maybe.
We're gonna go get the first down.
Yeah. 48 be tough into a breeze. Now 5 going down because I mean he did make the 47 earlier in the season with a few yards on it.
It was
still.
Yeah, it would have been good from 50.
Yeah, but with a breeze into it, that's right. That's right at his limit.
Yeah. I was just as we get down toward the end, I know you guys will focus on that this week, making sure that everything's crisp. I get the feeling sometimes that it'll come down to that field goal, and Blake's been so solid all year. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. But hey, best of luck Friday night, Coach. Baldwin, 6:30 kickoff Friday. GoFan.com is where you can get those tickets, so you make sure you do that. And again, Wildcat fans, with a 6:30 kickoff, you need to get there early if you want a seat. They do not have a ton of stands over there. Just make sure that middle section to the right of the 50 is reserved for Jackie and myself, and that's where the radio broadcast will be. Other than that, you can sit where you want, right?
Easy. Yeah, it is. We were over there, and Palatka didn't bring a lot of people, but they did bring their band. They rope off one section for the band, and it was pretty. For them not bringing a lot of people, it was still pretty crowded.
Yeah.
A lot of people having to stand on the fence and that kind of stuff. Unless you want to go sit on Baldwin.
If you take the band, if you take a band with you anywhere, and they don't have the stands like that, they're going to take up some room, right?
And ours is coming.
There you go. Should be a great environment for some high school football, though. It's Baldwin's not a big stadium. The folks will be right there, and I know our side's going to be full. For them being in the second round of the playoffs, having the chance to beat Baker County twice in the season, their stands will be full. Yeah. So, should be a great atmosphere for a football game Friday night.
I expect it to be. Yeah. It should be fun to play.
I'm looking forward to it. The dilemma I have is, if we do win Friday night and we play Bradford the next week, the Gators and Seminoles will be playing at the same time on the next Friday night as we would be, 7:30.
You can stream it on your phone and kind of watch right at the same time.
Yeah, but how frustrating. How frustrating would that be for me to accidentally say Anthony Richardson instead of Blake Mays? Touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, but I would much rather the Wildcats win, so I'd rather have that problem to deal with than not have it. So,
yeah, we're looking forward to be our 3rd year in a row practicing on Thanksgiving, and like I said, that's kind of a high school football goal, I guess you would say.
Absolutely.
If you can practice on Thanksgiving, so it'll be a 3rd year in a row that we've done it, and we're proud of that, and we will put everything we can out on the field Friday, and hopefully it's enough to make it happen.
Yeah, that's always been the thing that we always say. If you're practicing on Thanksgiving, that means you had a good year. And good luck, Coach. Let's go take down Baldwin. We don't want those guys having anything that they can hold over our heads for another year until we get to play them again. So let's take them down.
Yeah, if we're going to win one of the 2 games, I'd rather it be this one.
Yeah, let's do it. Best of luck, Coach. Go Wildcats. Fans, 6:30 Friday night. We'll be on the air about 6:20-ish. You can hear it right here on 97.5 WFBB if you're not able to make the trip. And then, assuming we win the game Friday, we'll be back on the air next Monday with another coach's show. So thanks for being here tonight, Coach. I know you give up your time to be here, so thank you and your family for allowing that, and we'll talk to you Friday night.
All right, thank you, guys.
Broadcasting from Glen Baptist Church in the heart of Glen St. Mary, Florida, you're listening to 97.5 WFBB, the beacon of Baker County.